Welcome everyone, Dan here online with John Schrader, and we're here to talk about X12. What's new in Chief Architect X12? And I'm not going to hit on every new feature that's in the software. I wanted to hit on some of the main ones. So we've got a little over 60 minutes on this, and we'll kind of go as long as it takes. I've been using X12 since October is when the beta came out. Been doing a lot of projects on it. I've opened up some old ones in X11 that are pretty substantial size projects, and I've had virtually no issues with it. So I'm going to highly recommend, without hesitation, to go ahead and download it and run it, even though it's still going to say it's in beta. Here's how you go download it. Let's talk about how you get started with X12, because it's not everybody just knows where to go to do this. So what you're going to do is you're going to log into your account online, your Chief Architect account, and you're going to look for this link right here, and it's the Digital Locker, Downloads, Product Key, and License Management. And you're going to go into that, and what you'll see when you're in there is you'll have a listing of the different versions that you have. And since I've already loaded the beta, it's already on my system. So if you haven't downloaded it yet, you'll see a button over here that says Upgrade. I believe that's what it says. So you'll have to click that button, and then it will add the beta link here, and now you can go ahead and then download the beta and get started with it. When you install X12, it is a brand new install. It has nothing to do with previous versions. Every time you load Chief Architect, it's a brand new install. What you're going to be asked when you bring it forward, some of the migration settings are going to look like this. It's going to migrate different things: hotkeys, preferences, templates, toolbars, core manufacturer libraries, and user catalogs. So the one thing I'm going to say about migrating your older things into the new version of Chief Architect is be careful, because if you haven't done anything with the toolbars, if you haven't done much with templates, if you haven't done much setting up preferences or hotkeys, I would say don't migrate these from X11 forward, especially the toolbars, because you're going to bring forward some of the old settings that you don't necessarily want in X12. That's what I've been seeing. People are getting these toolbars that are a little bit different. That's because they've migrated their toolbars. So if you're customizing the heck out of things, you're creating hotkeys and preference settings and all that stuff, by all means, you're probably pretty aware of what you're up to and what you're doing. So by all means, go ahead and bring those items forward by migrating them into the X12, because you've already customized your program quite a bit. One of the first things that you'll notice when you bring X12 forward is, and I really like this silly little feature, is Chief puts these three icons over here now for X12: the library, the project browser, and the layer icon, to turn that on and off in the tabs here. I really like it over here because now it's easier to, it's right next to where we use them. So it's like, well, let's go ahead and do that. Now, my toolbar might look different than yours. It's one of Chief's standard toolbars, and what I mean by that is it's called the extended tool configuration. So what you want to do, if you're running Chief and you have two rows of icons here and you have one row icons over on the right, you might want to go ahead and set the toolbar configuration up to the extended tool configuration. It's really a nice toolbar, let's put it that way, because it gives you most of the icons that you need on the screen at any one time. And if you're using templates, I really like having the plan view information right here, and I also like having my annotation sets, which are now called general defaults, and I like having my layers display here. So when I switch to the different kind of view using my plan views, I can tell where everything's at just by looking at the toolbar. So I really like having those drop downs there. If you're using the old default toolbar, this one right here, the only thing you have now is the plan views, which if you're using plan views and you're happy with them and it works the way you want it to, great. I'd say keep using it, but you'll see you don't have the layer control up here, although you can turn it on over here if you want to. So it's kind of whatever you get used to. So just pay attention to that. But I'm going to use I'm going to use, if you want to follow along a little bit easier, I'm going to switch the extended toolbar. And I kind of do that every time I do these things, just so everybody knows where I'm at. All right, let's see here. So now, let's go back. I just set up my little presentation here on the layout page. So when I switch to the project browser and I go over to that tab, you'll see here's the different pages that we're going to talk about right now. All right, so again, those icons get put over here. Watch your migration settings. Now, to get started with this, here's a little link for you. So chiefarchitect.com /what's-new. That'll get you to that. And let me link right over there. And for those of you that are familiar with Chief or not, when you use the plain text box, I'm going to explain some of this stuff as I do it. So I'm using the plain text box, not the rich text box, to put this little link there. Okay, plain text right here. And in the plain text box, you have a little thing called link. So you see how I put that link right there. So that's the URL for that. So what I can do is I can click on this, and whenever you have a link in Chief in one of those plain text boxes, you can click on this and it'll follow that hyperlink and it'll open it to that page. So when you get to this page, what you're going to want to do, they have this summary listing of all the things that are in the update. You know, it's a good list. Some of the stuff you might look at and go, huh, what's that? Again, I'm not going to go through everything. We just don't have time to go through everything. So go ahead and do that, and you can get there anytime. All right.
Hey, Dan.
Yeah, John.
Dan, before you move on, can you go over what's the best way to keep the updates, to keep Chief updated? When they do a fix or something like that and they do an update, what's the best way to go about making sure you're up to date?
Chief does do regular patches and enhancements to the software or fixes, updates. And a lot of times when you open the program, it'll give you a message that, hey, there's a new version available. You want to go get it? And I'd always recommend, yes, go get the patches, because that means they've fixed a bunch of stuff. The other thing you can do is you can go to download program updates. So you go to help. If you want to check if you're up to date, you can go here, go to download program updates. That'll take you to their website, and it'll tell you, okay, yeah, I have the latest version installed right now. So you can do that. Sometimes when they do have an update, they'll list the update here, and they'll also have a list. A lot of times they have a link to open the PDF that lists what's been changed or fixed in this new patch. So a lot of times it'll just fix a bunch of things. So you want to keep an eye on that. As long as I'm here, I'm going to point out one other thing, because a lot of times people want to go back and load up one of the older versions. Once you upgrade to a new version, I don't believe, I may be wrong about this, but let's say I wanted to download X11. So I would go in here and click on my product keys and license management, and what would happen is I would get this, and I could download the latest version, but I couldn't download the X11, X10. Not that you want to once you update it, but yeah, maybe you do, because I have to do it because I work with people in older versions once in a while. So what you want to be aware of at the Chief Architect website is when you go back to their homepage, look at the bottom menu down here, and they'll have a support area, and you want to go to program updates. That's another way to get any of the versions that they've ever produced. So you'll see they have X11 listed here now. When the Chief X12 goes out of beta, this will say X12 right here. But you also have this link here for previous versions. So you can click on that, and you'll be able to go download all the way back to X1 and prior, back to all the way back to 9.5. So if you're using anything older than that, well, you're out of luck. But so this is where you would download any of the previous updates for the program. So that's how you could get back to those older versions. A little FYI for you there. Now the other thing you want to do when you install Chief, and I believe when you first install it, it'll do this automatically. What you want to do is you want to make sure the program's up to date. You also want to make sure your libraries are up to date. So there's under the library pull down, you want to once in a while you want to hit this, especially if you've downloaded a lot of catalogs, because Chief is constantly fixing their catalogs and adding new elements to them. So you want to update your library catalogs regularly. And what Chief will do is go through your libraries. Right now I believe I think there's 373 libraries that I have downloaded and installed. It doesn't slow the program down at all, although it does give you a lot of options when you start doing searches and you have a lot of things that you're searching for. But they are very, very proactive on all of their libraries and adding those to the program here. All right, let's get into some of these new features. All right, little things, some just enhancements that they've done. Spell check highlighted. All right, so if you're in a text box and you're spelling something wrong, see how it's highlighting that now? It's underlined, and I can now right click on that and get suggestions. I don't have to click the spell check after I'm done with it. It's just like Word now, just like any other program that you're going to do. Very nice feature for keeping your spelling correct. Little thing makes a big difference. Find and replace text. I don't use this very often, but maybe others do. So under the it's the edit, I believe, there's a pull down here, and there's a thing here called find and replace text. So under edit, find and replace text. So if you have a lot of text in your plan and you want to replace it with something else, you can find it and then replace it with something else. And then you have a few other things that you can work with here. So again, I don't use that not ever, I don't think, but it's there, and they've enhanced it quite a bit for this release. All right, delete more items automatically. So as you're working on your plan, I do this every now and then. I'll put framing and stuff in, and I want to go delete all the framing, or something like that. File, edit, delete objects. They've added a bunch of new items to that, so you have more options there. I believe they added all these different wall features down here, so you could get rid of walls, fencing, rooms, things like that. I don't use this a ton, but it's once in a while it's nice to know it's here if I got some things in my plan I want to clear out. So you can do all floors, all rooms on this floor, or single rooms. So you can you have some different options there. So that's your delete objects option. Okay, control wall reversing in the defaults. Now by default, when you're drawing walls in Chief Architect, Chief's always going to put the walls, the main layer of the wall. And let's just clarify what this means. So I double click on the wall icon, I go to wall types, I hit define. You see the way this window's laid out here with the siding on the top, sheetrock on the bottom, and we got a main layer area here, which is the framing. So Chief always puts this part of the wall toward the outside of the screen by default, because it assumes that's the exterior part of your wall. So they tell you when you develop walls in Chief, put the siding to the top of this menu. Okay, put the drywall and stuff to the inside of the menu. So as you're drawing walls, so if I were to draw those walls with the siding to the inside, okay, when I'm done drawing, Chief, I don't know if you saw that because I did it kind of quick, Chief flipped that over. Let me hit undo. See how the siding's on the inside now? So as soon as I click this and I connect it to form a room, Chief automatically flips the siding to the outside. There's a default setting under walls, so if you don't want it to do that all the time, and I don't know why you wouldn't, but it's there and they added it. I don't even know why I'm bringing it up, but it's right here. It's under the defaults for walls, general wall, and it's right here, auto reverse wall layers. That didn't used to be there before. So if that's a problem, that the walls keep flipping on you and you don't know why, that would be why. Break walls using the CAD break tool. This is a new feature that is really nice. So used to be you had to click a little break icon up on the top of the screen when you're breaking a wall. Now you just simply hit the break tool down here, or the keystroke for that is your number 3 key. Okay, it's one of the most used keys in Chief for working in the CAD. So when I click number 3, I can add a break to that wall anytime I want, and I can then do that. So that's the break key, and I'm glad they did that. Now we don't have to have 2 different kinds of break keys for some reason. Brings a little bit more consistency to the program. Add caps to all walls. So in X11 we couldn't put a cap on the top of a plain wall. So we didn't have the option to put a wall cap on just a wall like this. Now we can. We can also put wall caps on terrain walls or pony walls. Basically you can put wall caps on any wall. Okay, so it doesn't matter what kind of wall. So I want to make that width, full width of the wall. I'll make it 0.75 tall. And there's the cap on the top of my wall now. So you can adjust that as much as you want to. So Any shape can also be put on there. So if you wanted the top of your retaining wall to be rounded or something like that, you put a half circle on there and you can then put that on top of that wall. So that's a nice new feature that we couldn't do before. And small thing, but anytime you're drawing a wall and you want to put a cap on it, it's a good one. All right, so next, let's get back here. And next is the Better Pony Wall Display by Saved Plan View. All right, this is the thing that a lot of people are still struggling to understand what it does and how it works. But basically, once you get the hang of it, it is quite nice. And I know John's smiling right now. Yes, I do like Save Plan Views now. Save Plan Views give you the ability to save what layers are turned on, what annotations are set up there, and we can also save as part of our plan. Save Plan View would be the pony wall settings. So when I clicked that down arrow and I clicked to edit this particular plan, Save Plan View, I can now tell Chief in that particular view, how do I want my pony walls to display? Do I want to see the brick ledge? Do I want to see just 2 lines for the whole wall? Do I want to see the upper lower outlines for that pony wall? Because a pony wall might have brick on the bottom and siding on the top. So they're typically different sized walls. So you have control now over the different kinds of views in your plan, how you're going to show those pony walls. That's a nice feature, and once I get it set up in my template, I think that'll be very handy. Because you want it to show up different for different kinds of plans. For my electrical plans, I don't want my pony walls to have as much detail as my architectural plans. So that's kind of what that's all about. All right, control posts at walls and railings. All right, so what does that mean? So when you draw a deck, so let's do a straight deck rail. And let me click on this, and I'm going to make that into a rail style that's post to beam. Okay, so we got the post like this. So it used to be that we would always have a whole or half post against the wall. Okay, now we can control that right here. What kind of post do we want at the wall? Auto post, half, none, full post, half post, or no post. Okay, so let's see how I can turn the post off completely, or maybe I just want a half post. It's half thickness. Plus you could also offset it from the wall if you want to. So if you want it to be away from the wall a little bit. So if you want to have a space between the end of that and the wall, let me copy the wall over there now, and let's take a look at that. So when you do that, you see now I've got a space there. Never been able to do that before either. So that's actually really a nice little feature to be able to do that. So I could make that into a full post and specify a space there. It's one thing, Chiefs, the way the walls snap together, it's very, very good up until that last 2% when you want to try something different. That it's really hard for Chief to do. So that gives us that option. Click item to find in library. So if you have something in your plan, maybe let's just throw something in from the library, and let's just grab something. I'll grab a fixture here. There. So I just grabbed that. All right, and I turn that layer on in my framing plan, which is fine. Okay, so there's that. So, now I'm off working on something else, and it's like, what, I want to find a different tub, okay? Something similar to that, but a little bit differently. So now you have a little icon down here that says to find items in your library. So you got a little picture of the books with a magnifying glass on it. They're starting to do a lot more of that in the program to find things that you're working with in the program. Really cool how they're doing all of this. So what I could do, what do I want to find in the library? The tub itself, okay, the fixture, okay, or tub shower, or the material that's on it. So you'll get a list of different things. But there I am. So now I'm in that same library where I got that fixture originally. That's cool, because a lot of times you've got something in your plan, you haven't worked on it for a while, and you go, gosh, where did I get that item from? I want to get something similar. And so that's really nice. All right, name symbols before adding them to a library. Add items of objects. Okay, so again, there's lots of little things in the program, and I'm not going to go through all these things, but if I'm going to turn this, I'm going to add this to the library as a symbol. I can now name it whatever I want to call it here. Okay, here's my new tub. Maybe you've taken a group of items and you're going to make it into a symbol, you'll probably be surprised the number of things that you'll be making into symbols once you start learning how to use this function. But now it's going to give me the ability to name it and to put it in a specific library, which I haven't been able to do that before. The other thing you can do is when you have an architectural block. All right, so if I have a group of items, I'm going to group these two items together by selecting them and making them into a block. Now I'm going to add that to the library, and we can click on this button right here now. So when you click on that, it's going to say, well, which part of that item do you want to add to the library? Well, I could do the whole thing. I could do, without the materials by themselves. So maybe I want to create a library of just those materials that I want to use on other things in my plan, or add them to my style palette. Okay, or maybe I just want to do the tub. So you might have a whole bunch of items as part of a group, and you can specify which of those you're going to save to the library. You don't have to save the whole group, or you can save the whole group too. It doesn't matter. Match interior on both sides of a door, the hardware. Again, it's a silly little thing, but it's one of those things that it's annoying when you're changing hardware, because you'd have to change it on each side of the door. So what I could do is open that door dialog, and under the hardware tab you now have a new option to, under the exterior handle, to match the interior. So that what that means is whatever you put on one side, it's going to be on the other. Okay, so that's nice that we don't have to mess with that now. So if I go to my library and I change and I search for a knob, let's try that. Yeah, so here's a doorknob. I'm going to put that one on, and I'm going to click on it. Now I'm going to see how I'm just clicking on it from the library. Now I'm going to click on that knob, and so I replace that with a little square white one. And if I go to the other side now, it should be the same over there too. And it used to be I would have had to do those separately. So that's kind of nice. And that's another nice thing to be aware of, is that whenever you find something, you can just click on it from the library and replace that. Now, we still don't have little icons down here to replace all the doorknobs in my plan all at once. That doesn't work here from this deal. Style palettes will probably take care of that for us. All right, so let's go back to here. Next one. Automatic tray ceilings. This is one of the really nice new features in X12 that I think a lot of people are really going to love. And if you haven't played with this yet, you'll want to try this. So there's a few different ways to add tray ceilings to your plan now. So let's go ahead and just bring up a camera view of this room, and let's tile our display. I'm going to turn this off over here, and let's just grab my tab and we'll get it so it splits the screen, and there we go. So now I can go back to my floor plan. Alright, so what I'm going to do now is put a tray ceiling in this room of this plan. So there's different ways to do that. First thing I could do is just click the room, and then you have a new icon down here. It looks like this. Okay, that's your tray ceiling icon, and when you click on that, what Chief's going to do is it's going to ask you, what do you want to do? So I'm going to come in 24 inches, and then I'm going to go up 12, and then it's going to be straight over. Or I could say, well, make this pitch at an angle. Maybe I want it angled. So let's go ahead and let's just leave it like this, and we'll hit OK. And I do want to recess it up into the ceiling, otherwise it will lower the floor. So I just added that tray up there. Okay, so let me undo that, and let's do the same thing by clicking on the same icon. And this time what I'm going to do is uncheck vertical, and I'll make it you could make it whatever pitch you want. So I'll make it 12. Now you see how we have a slope tray ceiling. So that might have just saved you a few minutes on your plan. Okay. Now here's what's really cool. I can click on this line now. It's a ceiling plane line. You'll notice what layer it's on. Okay. And now I could click that same icon, and I could add another element to that tray ceiling. So I could click on it again, and I'll just leave it set at that and click OK. Now you see how it steps it over and up again. I could click on it again. So you could keep going with this and keep adding to that. Okay, so now that time it got a little funky. Turn the lights off or something. Keep in mind that when you do the framing now, Chief has set it up so that the framing will follow all of that now. So it'll put the ceiling framing in the way that you want it. Pretty cool how they've done that. So you want to start over, just delete the items that are in the room. And let's go here, tab, tab, tab to get to the, oh, here's what I want to get to, this one. There we go. So now I've just gotten rid of all of them. Let's go do it a little differently. You can draw a box. It can be any shape you want. You could draw a box and put a break in it and have it come out here, and I could put a rounded end there, and I could now convert that to a tray ceiling by using the magic wand. I call it the magic wand tool. Chief calls it convert polyline. It's this tool right here. So when I click on that, now it's going to go, and I'll have the option to do a tray ceiling. And when I click on that, what's going to happen is Chief is going to open the dialog for the tray ceiling. It's going to ask me what I want to do with that. 12 vertical, pitch in degrees, click OK, and now I will have that shape up in my ceiling. And there's that tray. Okay, just like that. I can add molding to it. So once it's in there, you could add all sorts of things to it. You could add moldings to it. You could add a rope light to it. I'm not going to do that now. I'm not going to spend the time on it, but go ahead and play with it. It's pretty cool what you can do with it. And again, once you add one, you can click the icon again, and you could add another one. So just click OK, and then there's a stacked one right inside of there. And I could grab that and reshape it and do whatever I want to with it. So you got a ton of flexibility. Really a nice tool. I actually met the developer that put this together, a young lady that did just a great job on this. So they've got some sharp people at Chief that figured this kind of stuff out. So that's your tray ceilings. Nice, nice feature. I think you'll really enjoy that. Okay, next item on our list, stair enhancements. Okay, Chief is always adding new functionality to the stairs. I think in this one is one of their better releases. All right, so what can we do with them? Connect different stair widths together. Yay. I should be cheering a little louder than that, but that's really a nice feature. Break stairs with the brake tool, another biggie. Add split in pie-shaped landings, another nice feature. Automatically add those pie-shaped landings. Better stair bumping, use the Alt key to disconnect stairs, customize stringers, stair skirt board control, and better material control. See how I can do different riser height colors than the treads? Haven't been able to do that before. So let's go take a quick peek at how we do some of those things. So let me go ahead and bring up an overview here so we can see what's happening. So I'll pull that, and then I'm going to tile my display here. And let's switch up to here right now, and let's draw some stairs. All right, so I'm going to go back to my floor plan, and when I draw some stairs, let me just show you a few examples. So I'm going to draw some stairs. I'll draw two different widths right here. All right, so here's one way to do it. And then I could just slide them together, and Chief will do a really nice job of hooking them together. But you see how that created that wider stair? So imagine if you had your wall there that you're bumping the stairway into. Now you've got it ready to go. So Chief's done a better job than that. Still not perfect. It's still not going to do the perfect hookup of all of this, you know, all of the turns and everything. It's not going to do a perfect gooseneck down here. They're getting close, though. Let me tell you, they're getting close. Let's look at another way we can edit this. All right, so I could just draw a single stairway, and now when we click on a stair, and I always like to point this out in my classes, that when you work with Chief and you're working with, everything is based on a CAD line, including stairs. So when I click on when I draw a CAD line in my plan and I click on that CAD line, I get these handles on it. When I draw a stair, I get these handles on it. Of course, I don't get the diamonds at the end because I can't copy the end of the stair a different direction. Chief's not going to allow that. But I can go here and I can hit my number 3 key and I can break this stairway right here, and I can, or this line, and I can pull it like that. See how I just shaped that line? Well, we can do the same thing to a stair. So you can add a break in the stair, and now you can grab that edge. But before you do that, one thing you have to do, think about it like this. So I'm going to draw a line, and I'm going to break it. Okay, I'm going to hit the number 3 key, or this break icon, and I'm going to break that line. When I do this, see how it keeps it connected like that? But I don't want to do that. I just want to separate those two lines. That's what this icon is for. Okay, this will separate those two lines, and that's what we're doing with the stair. Click, separate that line, and now I can pull that away from it separately. That's what we're doing to the stair. So I'm going to click on that stairway. I'm going to click on the part here, and I'm going to click the separate line tool, and now I can separate this and pull that apart separately. You see how the center of this stairway, that where that line is moving now? Okay, just like this right here. We're separating those two lines. So that's how you make stairs wider that are already hooked together, and that works really well. So I hope that was helpful. A couple other things that we can do here. You can change the different parts of a stair. If I want to separate that from that, I just hold the Alt key down. Hold the Alt key down and you can separate the stair parts. Okay, so that's really nice. If you wanted to, you could, I like to point out this example so that you know what Chief is doing with those stairs. You know, it's just a CAD line that you're splitting. Chief extrudes those stairs out from those CAD lines. Think in terms of CADs, people. CAD, it's a CAD program. Let's treat it like such. All right, let's go back and draw another stair. So some of the other things that you can do. I could click on this. You now have a line in here for stringers. So you have complete control over how many stringers that you have in your stairs. 1, 2, 3, or you could go custom and you could specify I want to have a left, middle, and a right, and in the middle I want to have 3 more. Okay, so if I want to see what that looks like, let's go to the Style tab and let's show open risers, and now there's all those stringers. Okay, so it's going to be a heavy-duty stairway, but I'm just showing you can do whatever you want. You could turn that just to one middle stringer, and then you could just make that middle stringer wider, and you could show it like that. Oops, go to 1 stringer in the middle. Okay, so there's your single stringer. And then you could change the thickness of the treads. You could change the railing style, the panels. I mean, none of that stuff's changed, but this menu here in X12 is really nice. You can change the trim that's against the wall, the skirt board. You can extend, no, that's from the old version, so that's nothing new there. I think that was the main thing that they had in this version was the new stringers. So again, that's really a nice feature. All right, let's talk a lot about doing the split landings. All right, you know how when you bring your stairs up and you have the pie-shaped landings that the stairs come off of? All right, we can do that automatically now in Chief when we use the L-shape and U-shape stair icons in the stair drop-down. So if I click on the U-shape one, U-shape, you see it's going to open a menu. It's going to say, what do you want to, I want to make winders and I want to split the landing. So when I click OK, lo and behold, there's your stairs going up with the split landing and the winders. So that's not bad. It's still not perfect. It's still not probably to code perfectly, but it's a ton better than it ever used to be. All right. Now, if you don't want to do that, I want to start over here. So I'll go into my stairs and I'll delete those. And I'll go back here, and this time we'll do the same thing, but this time we won't make winders. We'll just split the landing. And again, this used to be a real pain to do, where you would split that landing, and this is pretty common. And now it works just like that, putting a stair in. Again, like anything, after you put the stair in, you go check your riser height, you adjust the number of treads, and you got your stairs the way you want them. So Chief does a really nice job with that now. And the same thing with the L-shaped stair. With that one, when you do the L-shaped stair, you go up here, we go L-shape, we're going to make winders, click OK, and I should have chosen the other direction, but there again, there's your pie-shaped stairs. Chief just hooking them together for you automatically. Nice new feature. All right. Better material control, yeah. So again, you just have more options of what you can do with stairs. So that menu is a really nice menu. Okay, next up is cabinets. All right, not a ton of enhancements there, but some good ones. Okay, some good ones. So let's go into a cabinet. Let's go place a cabinet in our plan here. And, let me go put a few of them in here. I'm going to grab some, I'll put some base cabinets in. Let me show you how to do a waterfall on these cabinets. All right, so what you could do at any time is I could click on these cabinets. I could group select them if I want. And there's a little button down here. And what Chief will do is turn the countertop of those cabinets into a CAD box. All right, so we're going to make that a CAD box. So now it's just a custom countertop. It's the same tool that we can get from the pull down for the cabinets called custom countertops. All right, it's a CAD box. So I could actually go to my plan and draw one of those in on the floor plan. It's the same thing. It's just nice that Chief has the tool that basically traces those cabinets. So if I go here, okay, and if I draw that custom countertop in, there we go. So I've just drawn one manually. So when you click on the end of that custom countertop, you'll have a new icon down here. It's this icon right here. Add a waterfall to that edge. And when you do that, there's your waterfall going down to the floor. Automatic. Same thing here. Click on that edge. Add the waterfall. All right. I can click on that now, and I can open its dialog, and I can make some adjustments to it with this right here. Add miter and automatic height. Or if I didn't want the waterfall all the way down, I could say, well, make it 24 inches or something like that. There we go. So you see, you can add a waterfall to any edge of that CAD box. So there you go. Kind of a nice setting. The other thing you can do with cabinets is you can put different material on the insides. So if I go in here and let me go ahead and open that door so you can see inside the cabinet. So if I went in here and, if I had a wood cabinet and I wanted to put a different material in there, let me click the spray can here and let's just go to, I don't know, let's go wood. And just find whatever material you want. I'll put that wood in. I'll make a nice wood interior, paint it outside, and there you go. So now we can do separate materials inside the cabinets. Another nice feature a lot of people have been asking for. So I think you really enjoy that. So it gets just one more step closer to getting these models exactly the way we want them. So I think that's a really nice enhancement. Okay, moving forward, default checkbox for countertops. So when we click on the cabinets and we open the dialog, they've grouped these items together now. So I could turn the countertop off as a group, I could turn the backsplash off as a group, and I could turn the toe kick off as a group just by unchecking that. And then you have more options as to the the different types of sides and the sizes. So the front, back, left. Whenever I do custom, whenever I'm doing countertops with different overhangs, I usually do custom. But you could just uncheck uniform and type in what you want. But that was there in 11, so you still have that. And I think there was one other thing in here, offset control. So when you have sinks in your cabinets, that was under accessories, I believe. So you will have the option now to top appliance fixture. You can now set a side offset and a front offset that you can control the actual number that you're putting in there. So if I went in here and I put a sink in one of these cabinets, let me just get rid of that custom countertop, and I'll just put this, I'll make this bigger, and I'll go grab a sink and we'll stick that in there. So let me turn my libraries on. Let's get a sink, and I'll put that baby into this cabinet. There's a nice double sink, pop that in there. So what I can do it two ways. I can just click on that countertop, click on that cabinet, or I could click on the sink itself by clicking the cabinet and hitting the tab key, and I could just grab and move that item. Okay, so it's the tab key or the next button, same thing. Or I could go in here and I could click on the cabinet and open its dialog. Oops, cabinet, open the dialog, and under the accessories I could specify what my front and sides offsets are. So if I decide that 6, it's going to move it over like that. So that's another way to do it. Okay, so that's a new feature. I think a lot of people weren't catching that you hit the tab key or the next button to get to the sink. So Chief added that offset function, which is actually quite nice. All right, the next item on our list, trim per room, openings in 3D framing. All right, what is these two things? These are two fairly simple things. But when you're working on a plan and you've got a bathroom, for example, then you've named it a bathroom, and you can set this up as a default if you want. So if you have a room here, and so if I'm going to name that room a bathroom, so I go to General and I go to Room Names, and I choose Bath, for example. In my bathrooms, I don't want to have any trim because I always do tile base, for example. Might be one thing, or maybe it's a shower. You name a room a shower, and you want to define what kind of materials in that room. So if I go to bath, let's just go to shower, and I'll hit edit. I can now edit the moldings in that room name. So I can either use a floor defaults, or I can then just go here and add new, or just have none. So now when I create a shower, there will be no, so when I name a room a shower, there will be no material, no base molding or crown molding or anything in that room. So that's another nice thing about room names. And again, just so room names are controlled by the kind of room they are. So bathroom and kitchen are going to be different than other kinds of rooms. So every type of room name that you see in the list, you can customize it, you can add to it, and you can change. So you could have different carpet in every one of these rooms if you wanted to. So if you really wanted to mix up your materials in your plan. All right, so that's that. The other thing that I wanted to show you was view windows and doors in 3D. So when you bring up a 3D view of something, so let me bring up, let me open this plan that I've got open here, a little sample that I've got. And when I bring up my framing plan, what I want to do is see the doors and windows in the framing. In fact, I have in my template, I have a setup where I'm going to do the as-built versus new. So I'm going to have it set up like that. And now here I have it so the doors and windows are turned on. So now I can see them in the openings in the existing and the new part of the plan. Skylights too. It's thinking about something. Decided to pause. I think that's one of my very first crashes with X12. I don't think I've ever crashed it that hard. Part of that might be I probably haven't updated my video drivers for a while on this particular computer, so that could be one of the issues. The other issue could be I'm running this GoToMeeting. Again, that could be a video driver thing.
While you're working on that, I have a yes/no question for you.
Yep.
Can you add a molding to a waterfall countertop?
So the answer, without digging any further, would be no. I would probably have to do that a little bit differently in the 3D world to get that edge to add the way I want it to. So kind of a yes and no. All right, now showing you that you can show your windows and doors in your 3D framing plans, which is again really nice when you're doing as-built versus new, especially when you're doing that. And the way you do that in Chief is, first of all, you go turn the layer on for those items, but you're going to do that and you're going to wonder why they don't show up. Okay, so I'm assuming there's something in the program here that prevented them from just turning the layer on when the framing's turned on. I don't know what it is, but I'm assuming that. What you have to do is go into your defaults, and you have to go to your 3D view defaults, and you have to go to your 3D views, and you have to turn on this little bad boy right here. Display opening independent of walls and roofs. Okay, it's a default setting under 3D views. That's a default now. So if you're opening an old plan and you want to show the windows and doors in the 3D framing plan, you have to open the defaults for that. Now in the future we'll have that set up in the template so it's always on. We could, then it's just a matter of shutting the layer off when you don't want to see those items in your plan. So if I want to turn my doors off in this view, I'll turn that layer off and they're gone. So you'll have the option to turn them on and off whenever you want to. I like that feature. I like being able to show the doors and windows, especially in the old part of the house. You've never been able to do that before. All right, cabinets, trim per room, opening style palettes. Style palettes. Any of you guys tried style palettes yet? This is really cool. This is really going to change the way a lot of people work with Chief Architect. One of the first things you could do is go to the pull down menu library, go get additional content online. You need to log into your account. If you haven't done this yet, type the word style palette here, and you can download one of Chief's libraries called the style palette. Okay, it's specifically for X12. So here's style palette right there, and you could download, and it's going to be for X12 only. All right, what is a style palette? The style palette allows you to change all the elements of a room: cabinets, doors, windows, trim, molding, flooring, wall finishes, all at once with a click of a button. So if I go into a room here, let me go back to my plan here, and let's just bring up a view of this plan. And let's go change, let's go play with a few style palettes that I've downloaded from Chief. I haven't created any of my own yet. Let me readjust that. Okay. In fact, I haven't really even worked with them yet, but I've been studying them a little bit, and they are really, really nice. So let's go to our library. And so in your library, what you can do is you can store different settings of items. So I'm going to go to my style palette here. When you load it, it'll be listed under your S for style palette. Let's get to there, right? Here it is, style palette. You're not going to be able to see this too amazingly well here. I suppose I could, let me pull my library browser off of here so you can see this better. Let me pull that onto the screen and just stretch this browser out. And I normally work with it like this anyway. One thing I have noticed is the style palette did kind of choke my computer a little bit. So there's something going on with the graphics. But you can see now as I click on things, you see that there's different types of items set up here. So we've got our junction style, we've got our maximum Mediterranean, bungalow. All right, let's go apply some of those to our plan here. All right, so here's this plan that I've got, and I want to apply some styles to it. So let's just click this arts and crafts one right here. So you see all the different settings in there. So you'll notice down here in the bottom left corner, you do have some of those little style palette icons, and this stands for object, room, floor, or entire plan. So depending on which one of these things you have checked, you're going to change a lot of things. So if I go change my entire floor to this new style, it's going to change the bathrooms, it's going to change all the rooms, it's going to change the flooring, the wood grain, the countertop. Say I don't like that one, let's try this style. So you can create unlimited style palettes all day long and apply them to your plan. And okay, so there's a real dark one. Okay, modern bungalow. See how cool that is? That is really slick to be able to do that with a click of a button. And again, if you just wanted to do a single room, you could do that here. Now, the way you add and create styles is you go to your plan and you change it to the way you want it to be. And then what I'm going to do is I could either, if I click on the whole room, all right, if I click on the whole room, you'll see a little style palette here icon. It's, you know, those little painter palette things. So let's click on that, and what's going to happen is Chief's going to ask, do you want to create a new one or add it to a selected? I'll say create a new one. And it's going to put it in my user library now because that's where my own stuff would be. So what it did is it created all the elements of that room and it put it in a style palette. It didn't do all the cabinets and everything like that. So for me to add those to this style palette, now I have to go in here, and again, this is really the second time I've created a style palette, so just bear with me. So I'm going to click on these different elements in my plan, and then I'm going to hit the style palette icon. So it's gone right now because I clicked on a light fixture and an appliance. So those are things I can't add to the style palette. So let's just click on all of these types of things, and I could click on that. And this, you know, you got to keep an eye out. So when you lose the style palette icon, you've clicked on something you shouldn't have. All right, so I'm just going to click on a few things here. Tall cabinet. So there's my style palette. So I'm going to add that to an existing style palette. So if I have that named for that particular room, I can add that to it. So now when I go, so now I've got those elements in my style palette. You can also add, you know, individual ones. So you could have style palettes for countertops. You could have style palettes for, you know, different kinds of wood cabinet doors with colors. So you could really get creative with the different kinds of style palettes that you want to create with Chief Architect. Very cool function that they've added. I'd give this one one of my top 5 new functions in X12. This is cool. This is going to be a big deal, especially for if you're doing a lot of interior decorating and things like that. I'm not sure if it was going to work on the outside of the house. I'm assuming it would, but I've never checked, so we'll have to check that. So anyway, that's style palettes, and that's how they work. And again, very nice feature. So play with that, learn everything you can about it. Let me, report back what you find. I'd love to hear more about it. All right, another feature is you can add boxed headers, object information panel, and my favorite, wall and ceiling framing. Well, actually, I'm not sure about ceiling framing. Not wall, it should say floor. Floor and ceiling framing per room on a per room basis. So when I want to frame just an addition for the floor framing, and I haven't done the ceiling framing yet, I didn't figure that one out. But for sure the floor framing, we can do that on a per room basis. And the way you do that is you draw your rooms. Let me turn the framing on and get rid of it here because I already have that in my plan. So I could go like this, edit, delete objects, and I could just click on all my framing and delete all the framing at once. Yes. Oh, okay. So delete that. So I just deleted my deck too. So now I want to add the framing to this room. I'm going to go to my first floor, and now you have a new icon here when you click on a room. And you can group select rooms too by holding your control key down. Really nice feature. Click on that. layer framing. Let me switch on to my framing plan first. Let's go to my framing, click on this, click the framing icon. So what happened was nothing happened, but it did put my framing on just for that room. Now I could go ahead and tweak that, clean it up, and I'm done. I used to be I had to frame the whole plan and then go delete the stuff I didn't want. That's a nice feature. I really like that a lot. And then again up here, we've been able to do this before where we could select walls individually and change them. So now when I bring up my 3D view, there we go. So again with Chief, what I would do is I would click on these walls. I would put those on a layer called Walls New, Wall Type, Layer, Walls Normal New. Well, I guess I had them set up that way. So when I switch to my 3D view and I switch my layer set, my layer set to 3D as built versus new, and now I'm seeing the old part of the house and I'm seeing just the framing for the addition. So again, just saved a bunch of time with that. And we can do the roof items separately too. The only thing I haven't checked to see if we could do yet is the ceiling framing. So I'll have to look into that one a little bit. But nice feature, very nice feature. All right, moving forward, we've got some enhancements to the CAD that I think you'll like. Visual point-to-point move, which is a nice one. So I've got my line weight turned on. So if I draw some CAD objects here, and this is true for everything, not just CAD objects, but let me go here. So I want to move that circle onto that CAD box. So when I click on this, I've got my point-to-point move. By the way, I've set up a hotkey of S for snap. I'm going to click on the center. Now you see that visual line, so you can see where it's going to move that point from. So I want to get it in the center of that box. I'm going to click here. I'm going to click here, come to the center. Bam, there's that item's now centered perfectly in the box. That's a nice feature. I really like that a lot. Yeah, the visual move. Now you can actually see what it is you're moving. Another thing, edit solid objects in all views. That's another nice one. So it used to be we could only edit these solid items in the view that we drew them. Let's go do something here that might be useful. Let's go create a chimney chase. So it used to be I would draw a slab here, and I'd want to go edit that. So I'd break it here, and then I'd pull this in, and I'd pull that up, and then maybe I wanted the top of it to be shaped a little bit differently. So I'd go in here and I'd maybe break it here, and we'll pull that in. I'm just doing something goofy now. I'm not doing anything in particular. So let's click over here and break it there, break it here, pull that in, and let me just snap that to that and snap that to that. See, I'm going across the item and snapping right to there. All right, but let's say I want to do that on the other two sides now. So it's like that all the way around. So now I can. I've never been able to do that before in Chief. So when we look at that 3D view of that object, all right, so let's give it a thickness now. So I'll give it 24 inches. There we go. All right, so now I want to shape this side too. So now you can see that I've got these different faces. So now I could break it and pull those into. I do have to add a break here. So it's a little bit like it's becoming a little bit more like SketchUp when it comes to these 3D objects. So I can pull that up there, pull that up there. So it's still not perfect, but man, it's a long ways from what we had before. Okay, so the ability to do this to one object is really cool. All right, so let's go take a look at that in 3D, and you'll get a little sense of what I just did. There it is. So I just created that. Of course, that's really ugly chimney, but you get the idea of how we can just out of one object we can create these different shapes. Which I could have this, I could come up here and I could have this sloping up to to the deal like that. Never been able to do that before. That's a really nice feature in X12. I don't know how long it took them to do that, but kudos to them because that's a good one. Here's one of my top 5. Resize pictures. Resize pictures. They added this button finally. All right, been asking for that for years and years. So let me show you what I mean by that. So I've got a plan here. Let me just add some dimensions to it. Sure. All right, so I've got let's say that I've just been, my client gave me a picture of their floor plan, or I've got a a little cutout from a magazine, and I know one dimension. I only know one dimension. Okay, so here's that picture. So I'm going to bring that picture into Chief. Let me go a new plan. Let me switch to my 1/4 inch, and I'm going to paste that picture here. Okay, and so there's the picture. You know, I want to trace over it. It's not to scale. It's just a picture. Now when I click on here, so here I've got a dimension of 42'7". So I'm going to click on the picture, and I'm going to click this little icon down here. That's your resize picture icon. When I click on that, I can now click up here. I'm going to get my line in the center there, and then I'm going to come over here, and you'll see now, one thing you got to be aware of this. I can only go up and down and back and forth. I cannot go at an angle. An angle is a whole different animal. But if you've got one dimension going back and forth, and I think that was 47'2" or whatever it was, I've just scaled the whole picture because down here this was checked. Retain aspect ratio was checked, so it did the width and the height at once. Now I could put that on a layer and start tracing over it. Nice feature. It used to be we would have to do it back and forth, then we'd have to stretch it out and do it up and down, and then we'd have to go back and do it this way again. It was just a real pain to do. But this just, again, big time saver. So again, one of my top 5 favorite new functions in X12 that they did a nice job on. All right, visual centering tool. What does that mean? So let's say that you have, let me just pop some windows in here. Okay, so I have 2 windows. I want to center a cabinet between those 2 windows. Okay, great. I could center it on the wall real easy. What's going on here? Oh, the cabinet's already there. Get rid of this. So I want to center that sink on that window. Of course, the sink's not centered in the cabinet, so let's just get this and we'll pull that to the center. Close enough. So I want to center this between those 2 windows. It used to be I would have to draw some CAD lines, and then I would put, I would draw another line, and I would center between the, so I'd move it to that center. Now what I do is I click on the object I want to move. This is your point-to-point tool in Chief. So you're going to click on the centering tool. This tool right here, the normal tool you would use to center things. So I'll click on that, and you'll notice you get another tool over here now. And this is your point-to-point centering tool. So what I'm going to do is click on that, and then what I have to do is find 2 centers. I have to find the center here, and I have to find, see, I get that visual line, and I'm going to find the center here. And because I'm originally highlighted the cabinet, now it's going to start moving that. So you see how it snaps there, and it snaps there, and I'm done. So I just did that whole move without having to draw any CAD lines. Nice feature. So when you're centering things and you don't have anything to snap to initially, it works great. Same thing. Let me just draw some CAD boxes, and I'll show you that little. Again, click here, here, and here. I want to center this CAD box directly between those 2. Okay, so let me just get them the same size. They don't have to be, but I'm just doing it here. So I'm going to click on the object I want to move, click the centering tool, click the new tool over here, click on this edge here. I want to get the center of that. I want to get the center of that, and it's going to move it to there. I could put it back down here. Okay, so wherever you want to move it from center. Now it's perfectly centered. Nice feature. That's going to save a ton of time. All right. Another couple other things: trim and extend terrain contour lines. So that's the same thing as, when I draw my lines in my plan, and I make some copies of those. I'll use multiple copy. I'm going to make a copy every 16 inches. Click OK. This is true, even though these aren't terrain lines. This is true now. I never used to be able to trim or extend terrain lines. So now I'll be able to use the extend tool and extend those lines over the contouring lines. And same thing, I can click and trim the lines off to meet my plot plan. Again, silly little thing, but it's a nice feature. We haven't been able to do that before.
Can you put in a terrain area, cut it out of the center there for those lines now? Cut the lines out of the center of the terrain?
That I don't know. If they're straight lines, I would assume yes. So if we put a terrain perimeter in and we put in some contouring lines, I'm not going to do any contouring. I'll just draw the lines in. So if I put these lines in and I made a copy of them every, well, they're going to copy every 16 inches because that's what I had that set at. You would never add that many contouring lines. But if you mentioned if you want to cut that out of there, I could click on that box, hit trim, and I could then trim those lines out in between, and yeah, that works fine. So again, the contouring lines, elevation data lines, that's a nice feature because we always had to pull them to the right spot, or get them to the right spot. We couldn't trim and extend them, so nice feature. A few dimensioning snippets that are really nice. So when you're dimensioning your plan, if you start drawing a dimension with any of the dimension tools, so if I draw through this cabinet, no, I'm in the wrong thing. I have my cabinet. Let me go back here. So if I go and I put a dimension line here, you see how it's picking up the cabinet. So it picked up the cabinet. It did put a center line here. So even if I didn't have one, so I could add one by using that. And then I can click on this center line, and you have a new icon down here to mark that as a center line. Another nice new feature. And the other thing that you can do is, you know what, I want to finish extending this dimension, and I want to pick up those windows, so I'm just going to grab this button and it's going to continue on through for me. Or I want to get rid of them, so I could just pull it back over, get rid of them. So that's a nice feature, to be able to extend the dimension after you've drawn it. So you can do that with any dimension string, extend those dimensions. Simple thing, but very nice. So I've covered some of what I consider to be really, really good features. This is another top 5 cool little function in Chief that I think you really enjoy. So when you're working on a plan and you have a 3D model, let me switch back to the 3D view of the whole thing. And at any time with your model, what you can do, I guess my style palette really did a number on the siding. I guess you want to be careful with that. So at any time, what you could do is you can turn on this function that's underneath this icon right here. It's underneath this where your cross-section slider icon is. It's called Hide Camera Facing Exterior Walls. All right, let's click on that and I'll show you what that means. So when you click on that, look at that. So all my exterior walls are turned off now, so now I can just poke into my building and see how the walls disappear as they face my camera. That is really a nice feature, to be able to look into your plan and look at things, look at how things are put together, just to show people what it looks like. And when you're inside, it's fine. It will display normal. Okay, it's only when you're outside looking at your plan. Now, that one is such a good one. That's worth creating a hotkey. So here's a little bonus for you. This is not a new feature, but since this is a new feature and we want to be able to use it by pushing a hotkey, so I want to be able to turn that on and off just by clicking my hotkey. Here's how we create a hotkey for that one. And you'll notice here under here what I did is I made the hotkey. I made it CA, so all I have to remember is camera. CA, camera, whatever works for you to remember what the hotkey is. So tools, toolbars and hotkeys, customize, we're going to go hide, and there it is. So I click on that and I'm going to type in the letters C and A down there. They weren't being used for anything else. And I'm going to click the assign button right here. And you'll have to do this on any computers that you're using this on. And from now on, anytime I bring up a 3D view, I hit CA, and it turns those walls on and off automatically. Control frame size on glass panel doors, which is kind of cool. So let me show you that real quick. So when you have a door, let's just throw a garage door, and you could do this with any glass door. The Chief shows in their demo a little garage door, so I'll bring that up. And so what I can do is click on that door now and open this dialog. And this is true for if you're using the Chief panel, the glass panel, and then in garage door. Now you notice the garage door only has one glass panel, so what I have to do is go to options and then click all glass. So now I could have an all glass door. And if I want to make that more of a commercial style door, what I'm going to do is go back to general, and I'm going to go up here, and I'm going to go down here, and I'm going to uncheck uniform. And I'll just make each of these like 1 inch wide, and so now you've got more of a commercial look. It's not putting the panels in. Let's see, can I do lights in here? Let me see. I've never tried this. Let's do lights across. Does it work for this? By golly, it does. So there's the look of a glass door with panels in it. How slick is that? All right. So you can control the size of the glass panels on any glass panel door. I like that function a lot. And another nice one. Let's see here. What else we got? Save as template. So whenever you're working on a plan and you've created a plan that you might want to use over again as a template, and you'll want to be careful with this. You don't want to mess up your actual template. But you'll go to templates and you'll hit save as a template. And what Chief's going to do is open up this menu. And it's true for layout pages too. And it's going to say you want to delete all of the stuff in your plan. Well, be careful, because if you have schedules saved in your plan or any CAD details saved as part of your plan, you might not want to delete those. So just be aware of what you're doing. And then what you would do is click this one down here to set that template. So what I normally do with my template is when I update it, I uncheck all that, because I know exactly what I want in my plan, and it doesn't have anything to do with those being deleted. Then I would click here, Save Template as a default. And then there you go. So then you just save that, and then every time you open up a new plan from that point forward, if you've selected that bottom option, that'll be your new template. So that's an easy way to set up a template. Open multiple layout pages at the same time. Yeah, baby. Another top 5. I got a lot of top 5s here. I'm probably running out of 5s. This is really cool, because now I can have multiple layout pages open at once, and it really works well. So let me open this, and here's so that's the one I've already got open. Let me open up another one. Let me go open a layout. Oh, I don't know, let's open this one. So now I've got 2 layouts at once. I could copy and paste now between the different layouts. I could copy the borders, anything. So it's just like having 2 plans open. You can copy and paste between the 2. And what will happen is when you send something to a layout, now Chief's going to ask you, well, which layout do you want to send it to? So now you have a drop down here of which layout you want to put it on. So that's nice. And so again, everything will stay linked together nicely, and it does a nice job. So multiple layouts, another nice new feature. And what was the other last thing? Schedule now display in the project browser. So when you have schedules in your plan, yes, they will display on your project browser. So those work well, along with your CAD details and stuff. Chief's really putting a lot of emphasis on this project browser, so it's nice to get used to using it. It's taken me a while to get used to it. Again, growing up the program, you just don't have these things, so you get used to a different way of doing it. But man, once you start using this stuff, it's really nice, especially with layouts. I could not function without my layout drop down anymore, because I can just scroll between these pages so easily, and you can have as many pages as you want in this layout. John, we got any questions that I can answer quick?
Paul had a question right after you were talking about the space mouse. That doesn't save the walls, rooms, correct, and floors when saving a template?
When you save it to a template, it looks like you'd have to delete the walls from your plan before you do this, or the walls will be part of your template. I'm not seeing a wall option. But if you had, you know, foundation, first floor, second floor, it's going to delete the foundation and second floor automatically, I believe.
How do you import walls from X11 to X12?
How do you? Now, if they're in a library, virtually anything that you put in Chief now can be saved into a library. So here's a few walls in a library, okay? These are rail styles. There's another library that has a bunch of walls in it. At any time, if you're in X11 and you have walls saved in the library, you can export that library. You right-click on the folder. So if you have a bunch of wall types, you just right-click and you hit export that library, and that's going to create a file, a CALIB file. It's a CALIB file. That stands for Chief Architect Library file. That you would then go into. You do that from X11, and then you go to X12 and import that, and that would work fine. The other thing you could do would be to take a plan, and if you've got a ton of saved walls, you could just put those different walls in the plan, and then start, you know, once you've got them all in a plan. This is actually not a bad idea anyway, because then you can kind of really track the kind of walls you want to use and how they look. And then just put all those walls in a plan, and then just group select them, and then add them to a library. And then you could take that library. So you could actually open your old template in X12 if all the walls are in the wall dialog here. Just draw them out, make sure they're named the way you want them to be named. then just put them on your plan, group select, add them to the library by clicking the books. And that's how you could add a bunch of those walls to your plan. So that you can do anytime.
Along those same lines, how do you migrate your toolbar if you've already migrated over to X12?
Let me double check this again. I have not done this, so bear with me. So we go to our documents folder where Chief stores all its data. And if I go look at the X12, there's going to be a, oh, you know what I've done in the past? Jeez, silly me. I have done this in the past where I've just taken my whole X11 toolbar folder. There's your toolbar folder, and here's all the stuff in it, and here's all your different toolbar files. So each toolbar you have has a different file. It's a little data file. You know, just go into your X12 and name this old, and then copy and paste your toolbar from X11 into the X12 data folder, and I think it'll work fine. Don't overwrite the toolbar that's there, because if it doesn't work you might need to unname it from being old, but I think that'll work fine.
If you can edit all sides of a solid, can you curve all sides of a solid now?
Like I said, it's version 1 of their multi-sided editing tool. Yeah, see, I can't convert that to a line, to an arc. So I think we'll see more things in the future. Oh, that side did it. So that side worked, but let's try this line. Here you can see that I did curve that. And I can curve that. So the answer is kind of yes, but not all yes. See, that one I can't do because it's against that one probably. And this one, that doesn't work either. So some of them. So it's better, but it's still not perfect.
You can export wall types as a whole. Look at the export function. And Paul said, I just exported all my walls from my X11 template to X12.
Export wall definitions. Paul, you're the man. You're the man. Thank you. And then I imagine you just, and then I imagine you go file import wall definitions. There we go. Bam. Good job.
Can you show how to share a camera view with clients?
You mean like a 360 panorama? Well, you have two options for that. You have the kind where you drop a camera in a room so that when you spin the room around they can look inside the room and do that. You go file export. Export a Chief Architect 360 panorama. That would be this one from that camera view. So file, export 360 panorama, and then we're going to go here and give it some size, and we're going to save it to the Chief Architect cloud. I'm not going to save it to my disk. If I wanted to upload this to Facebook, I would save it to my disk, and then I'd go to Facebook and upload it as a photo, and you'll be able to do the same thing I'm about to show you on Facebook. It's got the viewer built into it, so you could do that really easily. I'm not sure about the other social platforms. So let me just click on this and hit OK, and then I have to remember my password. Okay, so that's going to open up your digital locker, so you will have to have a current SSA in order to do this. And you can store 100 of these and 100 of the 360 models on the Chief website. Okay, so it says it's successful. Don't click OK, click the link here, and that's going to open up a web browser, and that's going to open up like this, and here's that panorama. So I could hit view, I can hit make public and share the link with my client, and I can hit view, and this is what your client will see when they get it. So they would just have a picture they could rotate around in that room. Very nice, simple, easy to do, works on all devices, so they can look at it on their phone, on a tablet, on their computer. Computers work the best. The other thing you can do in Chief for that same type of thing, export a 360 3D viewer file. This is a little bit more, it's going to create a bigger file because you're exporting the entire 3D model. And I always recommend to my clients, look at it on a computer. It's just a whole lot easier. Let me replace another existing model. You can type a description, whatever you want to say about it. what cameras you have saved. So if you have a bunch of saved cameras in your plan, boy, I'm really not a very good designer. Putting the tall cabinet in a bathtub. I'm going to click on that the link, not the OK button, and then again I could go here and I could view that, share it, share the link with my client. Depending on your file size, it may take a little bit to open. It's a little tough to navigate on a phone, but it works. Tablets are a lot better, a lot easier. Chief does have some pretty good controls that you can use, but once you get it done, you can then start you can start using the features here to zip around that model, and you can go inside and look at things. What you want to do is switch your rendering techniques to standard. Will give you a nice, it'll show all the patterns, all the textures. You can come around, look at your plan. So it does a really nice job. You can look at it flat on, you can look at it like a floor plan. You have some other tools here that you can use. So check it out. It's a great way to share models with your client. I do it all the time. Clients love it. So the nice thing about it is you're getting them the information they want, and you're not giving them your plan file so they can go do things that you don't want them to do with it. So you're still giving them a lot of information. So make sure you're getting paid before you give this to them. All right, everybody. Thanks. This is Dan and John signing off. We'll catch you next time. Bye now.